Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jeff. This is Jeff Reads, and welcome to my Fall Book Haul 2022. So I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I purchased in the fall of this year. Most of them at a brick and mortar bookstore, some of them online. And I wanted to give a shout out to this great bookstore about a half hour from where I live. It's called the Old Bookshop, and I'm going to be putting a link to it down in the description box. It's an amazing bookstore. Anyone who lives in the tri-state area, it's in Morristown, New Jersey, and the place is fantastic. They do antiquarian stuff. I think the deal is they do a lot of antiquarian stuff, which is pricey. So for the rest of what they sell, a lot of used hardcovers, trade paperbacks, and a lot of mass markets, their prices are amazing. I mean, amazing prices. So, I think if you're a gonzo collector, you can find some amazing stuff in there. But if you're a run-of-the-mill book collector like myself and you just want to get good deals, on classic trades and some good hardcovers and, mass markets, it's the best place. The Old Bookshop, Morristown, New Jersey. Get there. All right, so let's do the haul. I'm going to do the book haul for most of the books that I purchased in the fall of this year. And then I'm going to set aside a special section at the end for the very last chunk of book haul, which was a box of Penguin Classics that I won from Mr. Michael K. Vaughan, who gave away books on his channel as he is sort of divesting himself of a lot of books and doing more e-reading, which I think is, execrable. But, he's a good guy, and he gave me a box of books. So how much could I judge? And I'll save that for the end because he sent me some amazing books, and I'll thank him when I get there. So, all right, let's start off. I'm going to do this in chunks by type. So I'm going to start with all the mass markets that I bought, and then the trades, the hardcovers, and then Michael K. Vaughan's box, Oh Penguins. So let's start out with first mass market, J.R.R. Tolkien's Unfinished Tales. Obviously, the big news in Tolkien world this season was The Rings of Power, which was on Amazon. So I watched a few episodes of it and I was pretty much done. Really was not for me. But it did inspire me to reread Lord of the Rings, which I recently did, and I posted a two-part review of the entire trilogy, which I'll link down somewhere down there. You can pretty much find it pretty easily if you just search on my channel. But I'd never read the Silmarillion. I found it turgid and boring and pretty much unreadable. But I know that Unfinished Tales has a lot of the stuff that's, I think, about Second Age. So I'm kind of looking forward to perusing and maybe dipping in and out, trying some different tales or different chunks of the book. Because I really haven't read any Tolkien outside of Hobbit, Lord of the Rings. So yeah, I picked up Unfinished Tales for a song at the Old Bookshop. So we'll see. Next book is The Deep by Nick Cutter. So Nick Cutter wrote a book called The Troop, which was famously blurbed by Stephen King, old school horror. And I'd like to read that at some point, but I found this cheaply. I don't know if it was Old Bookshop or somewhere else, but again, Stephen King blurbed The Troop, old school horror at its best. And no, Nick Cutter seems to be a name in horror these days, so I want to check him out. Then I scored a bunch of Louis L'Amour. Old Bookshop has great Louis L'Amour. They just keep getting them in, and they get them in these wonderful trades with the old artwork. So I completely scored. I got Conager. I got Dark Canyon, and again, they're in amazing shape. I think I paid like $1.50 a book, and they're in like beautiful condition. Amazing place. High Lonesome and Hondo. Adding to so I'm getting a pretty good L'Amour collection. I've got about maybe 12, 13 of his books now, and I'm reading them here and there, and I'm loving them. Also picked up Sharpe's Eagle, which is the first published book in the Sharpe collection by Bernard Cornwell, who's presently famous for The Last Kingdom, but these books put him on the map. It's a soldier in the English army during the Napoleonic Wars. Sean Bean starred in the BBC production of it that was on forever. I think in like 70s and 80s. But I'm very excited. I want to read more historical fiction, and I haven't read a lot of it. But so I got the first one. I'm going to read them in publication order. There is a chronological Sharps. I think there's maybe 20 some odd Sharp books. It's a lot of them. And like a lot of series, you can read them in chronological order in terms of when the events took place. But I'm kind of a fan of reading things in order of publication because I feel like you're getting the character as the author is letting them go. And I'm curious as to what the first book is like. So looking forward to reading Sharp Siegel. Also found a couple of Isaac Asimov's Caves of Steel, which I read a long time ago and I'd like to get back to. And I'm actually interested in collecting all of the Galactic Empire, Robot, and Foundation novels. I pretty much have all of the Foundation novels, plus the ones that were written by Benford, Bear, and Bryn. And now I'm kind of making my way through the Galactic Empire. I think I recently got The Stars Like Dust, and I'd love to get them all in these versions. I think these are wonderful kind of paintings. Everything now is graphic design, so any new paperback you get, there's no paintings anymore or no photos. It's just all like design. So I miss these, old sci-fi books and fantasy books that actually have paintings. So Caves of Steel, and also found Robots and Empire, which is I think one of the last robot novels. So I need to read more of the robot novels, definitely. And this is a chunker, 500 pages for Asimov. That's a big deal, but in very good shape, mass market. So kind of psyched, adding to my Asimov collection. Also picked up some more Robert Ludlum, and I am actively trying to collect all of Ludlum since I was a huge fan of his back in the day. Whether or not I'll be able to make my way through a lot of them now, I'm not sure, but I found some old copies of the Scarlatti Inheritance, the Rhineman Exchange, and the Bourne Ultimatum, which was the third of the Bourne books. The Bourne books, the first book has some resemblance to the first film, but the latter two books completely different from the movies. And they're good thrillers in their own right. Ludlum really writes a good international thriller, or he used to. But it's been a while since I've been back to try to really read him. So interested in collecting Mr. Ludlum. I found a book called Silver Pigs by an author called Lindsay Davis. More historical fiction. I think this is, it even says it, a detective novel set in ancient Rome. And Lindsay Davis is pretty highly regarded as someone who writes sort of crime fiction that takes place in ancient Rome. So I think this is the first book in the series. Very excited to read it. Who knows? Detectives in ancient Rome. Who would have thunk it? Also curious about Patricia Cornwell, popular thriller writer, writes about a character who is a medical examiner, I think, a forensic investigator. Anyway, this is the first book in the Kay Scarpetta series, this is who this woman is. Very curious to check out what she has to say. Also found Michael Crichton Disclosure, crackling read that came out, I think in the late 90s, early aughts, on the cusp of, talk about the glass ceiling, about women in business and pay gap and all that kind of stuff. Of course, Crichton flipped it on its head. But one of his better reads, Crichton, when he's on, he can put novels together in a way where you just cannot stop turning pages. So I'll probably collect most of Crichton in mass market editions. So got me some Disclosure. Also found an old mass market of the second Tarzan book, Return of Tarzan. I've read the first Tarzan book, and it's an amazing read. I would recommend it to anybody. It does not date at all. It's an incredible 100-year-old book. It's an amazing book. And I've always been very skeptical on reading the rest of the Tarzan series, but I don't know. I feel like I would try the second one and see. I want to reread Tarzan sometime soon, do a little booktube channel on it, and then see what the second one is like, the Return of Tarzan. So we'll see. And then I found a steal at Old Time Bookshop. The Narnia series, Chronicles of Narnia, this beautiful box set, mass market paperbacks. They're all in amazing shape, right? So starts with The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Prince Caspian, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, The Silver Chair, The Horse and His Boy, The Magician's Nephew, and The Last Battle. Now, I've never read any Narnia. I don't think I've read any C.S. Lewis, frankly. So very curious. I want to make my way through Narnia. I mean, this is, that I've read Rings, but not Narnia. Come on, Jeff, let's go. But beautiful condition. I paid $7 for this set. I felt like saying I would have paid twice, my dear. $7 for this beautiful mass market set at Old Bookshop. Amazing place. So that's the mass markets. Now let's roll into some trade paperbacks. This I found at a charity shop near my girlfriend's house, Pride and Prejudice, Jane Austen. I love the Barnes & Noble Classics editions. I mean, they're made so well. Great flop, really good font. And any book, I think, in the English language, the translations are usually a little out of date, so I would not really buy translated works in Barnes & Noble, but anything in the English language, if I want to read it and keep it, I would try to buy. So I got this first song. I need to read Jane Austen. I've read no Jane Austen. It's a big gap in my reading, so looking forward to this. Also found the first master book in the Patrick O'Brian, Aubrey Maturin series, Master and Commander. I love this version of them, the whole set where they have these beautiful paintings on the front. I've since been in I was at actually a library book sale and I saw like 4 of these for $1 a piece, but I don't know if I'm gonna like them yet. So I was very loath to buy them, although boy did I want to, because they were in beautiful condition. But yes, I got to get through the first one. I think I tried this some years back and found it a little stolid and a little flowery, but it's so highly regarded that I really want to make my way through at least the first one, see what I think, and then hopefully if I love it, I will collect the series, which would be very exciting. So yeah, looking forward to Master and Commander. Also found the Continental Op. Michael K. Vaughan was talking about this on his channel. I think he has the big monster book of all of them. But I found this wonderful vintage paperback of the Continental Op, really very handsome volume, in great shape. Yeah, I knew nothing about the Continental Op, and I still find it odd that a character is named the Continental Op. Like, what's his nickname? Op? Hey, Op, let's go for a drink. So I don't know anything about this. Maybe he has a real name in the books, but I've read The Maltese Falcon, which is a masterpiece, and I like Hammett, so I'm very interested in reading some more. And this seems to be about some international spy stuff, so kind of looking forward to it. Also found the vintage book of contemporary world poetry, very inexpensive, but it's an amazing book. It was published, I think it was $3. This was published in '96. But it has got truly world-spanning poets, and I'm very interested in kind of getting familiar with contemporary poets and modern poets from around the world, not just English language. So this is a wonderful book that I would probably be dipping into much in 2023. So very excited to get a really beautiful copy of it for like £3. Okay, and then the hardbacks that I found. Folks may really enjoy this one. Hardy Boys, Secret of the Old Mill, number 3, I believe, in the Hardy Boys series. Beautiful. These are the ones I had as a kid. The blue with the wonderful painting on the front, big font. I read the Hardy Boys voraciously as a kid. I probably went through maybe the first 20 or 30 volumes. There's probably 60 or 70, maybe more. I'm sure they rebooted it. But this is from the original series, and I want to go back in and see what I think of them, and if I'm enjoying them, or I think I might enjoy them going forward. I found actually another bookstore not far from where I live, not the Old Bookshop, but another one in another town, and he's selling these. I think I got this for $4. This was very inexpensive. So those $4 a pop. I would be happy, every couple of weeks popping over there and grabbing 2 or 3 and starting an old Hardy Boys collection again, because they look so great on the wall too. The spines are all the same. But I'm also excited to read it again and see how they hold up. I'm hoping it's enjoyable. I've forgotten a lot about it. I think they had a friend named Chet, and their father was a detective. So anyway, as a kid, I went nuts for these. So very excited to rediscover. Found a beautiful hardcover copy of Lonesome Dove, Simon & Schuster. Not full, obviously not full cloth here and paper here, but really well, in excellent shape. I think I paid like maybe $4 or $5 for this, very cheap. But it's time that I read Lonesome Dove. So many folks on BookTube have read it, and it's supposed to be the Western. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think this will be a 2023 read for sure. It's pretty close on my TBR. And it's really a nice volume. And for a book that seems like it's going to be a classic, I'm excited because, you know, it's a hardcover. I can write in it. There are end papers where I can make little notes and little keys and guides to where certain characters and certain things that I go to. So anyway, excited, Lonesome Dove to come. And I also got a first edition of McCarthy's new novel, The Passenger, which I'm dying to read. I'm seeing booktubers are popping up who have read it and reviewed it, and I'm staying away from it. Even the non-spoiler reviews, I don't want to know anything about it. I'm really looking forward to checking it out. McCarthy's brilliant, and I love his writing. One of my favorite writers, just sentence by sentence, some of the most beautiful writing you can find these days. So yeah, so I got a first edition, which was nice. I think I ordered it like 6 months ago. And there's a companion volume called Stella Maris that goes along with this. But I wasn't sure about it, and I've read places that it's much meta, that it's kind of more of an experimental novel. So I don't know, depending on how I come out of this, I may or may not get Stella Maris as well, but you know, I can't remember the last time I actually pre-ordered a new hardcover. It's very exciting. Even though I'm a Lee Child fan and I will read every Lee Child book, you know, I won't buy Lee Child in hardcover. Like, that's ridiculous. So I'll get Lee Child, the new Lee Child that he co-wrote with his brother, I'll get when it comes out in mass market paperback. But it's nice to have, you know, a few authors still left where it's like, oh my God, I'll pre-order anything that they come out with. So McCarthy is definitely one of them. Last and definitely not least, I want to go through the box of Penguin Classics that I got. I won Michael K. Vaughan, a box of books from Michael K. Vaughan. He's giving away a bunch of books on his channel. I won a box, and I wanted to include it in the book haul because it was just so much. It was a perfect selection of books. He doesn't really know me that well about what I'm reading and what I want to read, and yet somehow it fit perfectly. So, so first up, Walter Scott, Ivanhoe. I love Ivanhoe. This is one of my favorite books. It's a wonderful book. I think the Barnes & Noble version, but Penguin also makes a nice version. So I will probably keep both of them because there's an essay, introduction in the Barnes & Noble and an introduction in this one, which will be commentary on it. So I'll have 2 copies of Ivanhoe. Sue me. Next one is Plutarch, Age of Alexander. So Plutarch's Lives is this book, or these many books that I've been on my TBR for a long time. Plutarch wrote them parallel lives. So the way Plutarch set them out, he would write these back-to-back lives. So he would write Caesar and Alexander, and then a third essay at the end would compare the two. So I bought the version of, I think it's Modern Library has the complete lives in trade paperback, where they pair up the lives the way Plutarch wanted them to. The problem is the translation in the Modern Library edition is just really turgid, very hard to get through. So the Penguin translations are better. However, they don't lay the books out the way that Plutarch did. Instead, they take all of the lives, cut them up, break them out, and then put them in chronological order. And they've released a bunch of books, The Age of Alexander, which is one of them. So this has a lot of Greek lives in it. And then it has a bunch of books on the rise and fall of the Roman Republic. And the lives are done by, again, chronological order of when they lived. So you're getting a true history of that. The problem is, that's not how Plutarch wanted you to read it. He wanted you to read them together. He wanted you to take an ancient Greek and an ancient Roman and have the 2 lives paralleled and then have that third essay. So I'm not sure if they even are doing the essays. See, the problem with this is I don't even think they're doing the comparative essays in the Penguins. But the good thing is I have the Modern Library version, so I can look in there, get the complete Penguins, because the translations are better. They're much more readable here. So I think what I'm going to do eventually is look in the way that Plutarch's Lives is laid out in the Modern Library version, and then just cherry pick the lives and read the 2 of them in the Penguin versions, and then read the companion essay that compares the 2 back in the Modern Library. So at the very least, you know, yes, this is the insanity, the minutia of how booktubers decide to do things, how they read things. Yes, it's insane and quite wonderful as well. So this was one of the volumes that I needed, because I want to collect all of the Penguin Plutarch's, and happily Michael sent me one that I needed, so awesome. Next volume he sent was The Moonstone by Wilkie Collins, which is on my Victorian TBR. Very excited to read this. It's a beautiful copy again. Nice flop, it's in very good shape. So, one of the early, supposedly one of the greatest detective novels ever written, very early on. So excited to read The Moonstone. Then there is Xenophon, the Persian Expedition, or as it's known as well, the Anabasis, which I've been dying to read. I have another version of it here, but I think this translation is also very good, very easy to read. So basically, this is the Greeks being drawn into Persia, ostensibly to fight for, I think, Cyrus. Cyrus is killed. The Greeks are stranded. Everyone in Persia wants to destroy them, and they figure out how to get out. Incidentally, this was the basis for the film The Warriors, which came out, directed by Walter Hill, which came out in the 70s. Walter Hill said it was directly inspired by the Anabasis, and at the beginning of the movie, all the street gangs in New York go up to the Bronx to hear Cyrus. He wants to try to unite them all, and then somebody kills Cyrus. They blame the Warriors, and of course the Warriors now have to make it back to Coney Island without getting killed. So, crazy 70s, genre film based on Xenophon, the Persian Expedition. Go figure. Next up, Mark Twain, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Now, I just finished reading this about 2 months ago and did not like it very much. So I may repurpose this. I may give this to a small library in the neighborhood, or actually the public library near me. I wanted to read Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn in a row. I finished Tom Sawyer. Life kind of intervened, and so Huck Finn is still on my TBR. But I found this pretty dull, actually. I was really disappointed. And definitely felt more like for boys. But it just was very episodic and not super interesting. I was kind of surprised. But I will definitely be reading Huck Finn because Huck Finn is, Huck Finn. Next up, Michael sent me Madame Bovary, Gustave Flaubert. I read the Lydia Davis translation, which was outstanding. I didn't care for the novel very much, but Lydia Davis is an amazing writer. I've read a bunch of her short stories, and pairing Lydia Davis with Flaubert was to me like a casting coup. I mean, because her style, to me, seems like a perfect fit for his, his observational style in terms of him being a writer. So not a huge fan. I'm glad I read it, so I'll probably repurpose this one and give it to a local library or a small library as well. But beautiful copy. Next one I got from Michael, The Penguin Book of the Undead. Didn't even know this existed. This includes 1,500 years of supernatural encounters. So it's got Greek and Roman stuff in here. It's got all kinds of stuff. And then of course, the Gothic stuff in the 1800s. So I'm really curious about this. Really never heard of a lot of this stuff. But, the Reformation of the Wraiths haunting the wings. Who knows what half of this stuff is. So, The Penguin Book of the Undead. I will hopefully be reading it and reporting back. Next, we have Always Lived in the Castle, Shirley Jackson. I've seen a lot of booktubers do book episodes about her. So, very cool Penguin classics. I don't know, there's different Penguin Orange collection, excuse me. So, deckled edge, if you will. But very curious about this, so I will check this out. Then a very beautiful version of F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Beautiful and Damned, which is a wonderful novel. I'm a huge F. Scott Fitzgerald fan. He's one of my favorite novelists. I have Gatsby and Tender is the Night and nice hardcovers, and I wanted The Beautiful and Damned in a hardcover. And lo and behold, he included it in his box of penguins, which was just amazing. This Side of Paradise, the first novel, was okay. I don't know if I'm going to collect it, but I want to reread this again because this was his second novel, and I remember enjoying it very much. It's about a writer in New York and just his struggles to write and his friends, and it's a really good book. Often overlooked, not spoken about by Fitzgeraldites. Usually they talk about the last two novels, but this is a very good book, and it's in a wonderful hardcover edition, beautiful end papers. But there it is. So thank you, Michael. This is a good one. Then Victor Hugo, Notre Dame du Paris, or The Hunchback of Notre Dame, as we like to call it. Definitely want to read this. I think Les Miserables is up on my list probably for 2023. I got to take that thing down. I'm dying to read it. But I also want to read this. Hugo seems to have this operatic sweep, something about his work that I'm very curious about. So I'm just excited to see this in the box. Next up is Ovid's Metamorphosis, which is one of the main sources of Greek myths that have come down to us throughout the years. So I'm a huge fan of Edith Hamilton's mythology, and I've cut my teeth on reading that, and Bullfinch as growing up. I was a big Greek mythology kid when I grew up. But I've wanted to go back and do primary sources. So Ovid, I think Ovid was Roman, and I think he was writing during the Roman period, but I know this is one of the main, even when Edith Hamilton writes in her book, she often says, she'll tell you where she got her translation or her version, where she'll say, I took the first half from Pindar, the second half from Ovid. So kind of very excited to dip in. Not something I'll probably read cover to cover, but I will cherry pick some of my favorite myths and heroes and see what it's like to read them in the original, so to speak. I think it's done in verse as well. I wonder if this is... Translated by David Rayburn. Okay, new verse translation. So we'll give it a whirl. Ovid Metamorphosis. And last, but definitely not least, a monster softcover of Anna Karenina. Anna Karenina is wonderful, or as I like to call it, the Levin novel. To me, I'm so much more interested in Levin's journey than Anna's journey. But I've been meaning to reread Karenina. It's been a while since I've reread it. So it's funny, it's on my list of like when I get a chunk of time between school and things have settled down a little bit. I kind of been eyeing it because I reread War and Peace last year, and I kind of want to get back to Karenina as well. So lo and behold, it was in the book of gifts from Michael K. Vaughan, and the P. Volokhonsky translation. Now it's interesting. It's not from my brief foray into translations. I think I recently read the War and Peace. I think it was Anne Dunnigan's translation. And for a while, I would go and certain parts of the book that I knew really well, I would crack open the P. Volokhonsky version of War and Peace and check it with Anne Dunnigan. And to me, it seems like there are easily more readable versions than theirs. They were famous in the 90s and the early 2000s. They were translating Dostoevsky and Tolstoy, and they were like the shit. There's been other translations now that have come out after them. There are definitely translations that are more readable. Again, I found the Anne Dunnigan War and Peace much smoother to read. Theirs is a little angular, but what I did really get this time, as much as I enjoyed the Anne Dunnigan, is that they are really much more interested in pulling out what Tolstoy was really trying to get at. So they'll sacrifice smoothness of line to get at what they think Tolstoy really meant by his Russian. So sometimes it might be a little angular and a little clunky getting through some of this, but I did find that comparing underlined sections of War and Peace that they translated, and the Anne Dunnigan translation, that I was getting more nuanced richness out of the P. Volokhonsky versions. So I think next time around, I may read I think Rosemary Edmonds is kind of this another go-to translation for Anna Karenina. So I may try to read the Rosemary Edmonds translation for smoothness of line, but then keep this handy to see what I'm thinking in terms of pulling things out. But they're wonderful translators, and I'm really happy to have this in my collection. Thank you so much, Michael. So that's the 2022 fall book haul. A chunk of them from Michael K. Vaughan, a lot of them from the old bookshop in Morristown, New Jersey. The great bookstore. I usually go there maybe once every 6 weeks to see what new stock they have in, and I'm rarely disappointed. I'm usually picking up a ton of mass markets for a song and then finding wonderful versions of hardcovers that are very reasonably priced. So and exciting post-pandemic to be back in a brick and mortar store, buying books for real. Anyway, so that's the haul. Hopefully there'll be another book haul in perhaps late spring, early summer of 2023. Till then, see you next time.